Hey, it's Greg here with MaritimeGardening.com, and it's that time of year once again to bury my pickles. I make a lot of pickles every year, and I only have one refrigerator, and I just don't have room to store it. When you make fermented pickles, I make lacto-fermented pickles. Once you make the pickles, you put the brine in, you put the pickles in. I've got videos and all that. Check the description box. I'll put a video up at the end of this one. You leave them on the counter for a week to ferment, and then you got to get them cool. And the ideal temperature to store them at is the temperature of Mother Earth, right? Now, in the old days, in olden times, people would use a cold room or a root cellar or something like that. And nowadays, people use a fridge, or if they are lucky enough to have a cold room in their house, or a root cellar. I don't have any of those things. All I have is a refrigerator in my house. I have a garage that I can put things in, and I do that in November. The garage stays at around 5°C all winter long, so that works. But there's this period of time between August and November where the garage is too warm, and there's not enough room in my fridge to put all these darn pickles. And certain years, I've got a neighbor sometimes that they get a spare fridge, and I can put it in theirs, but their spare fridge is full of stuff. They haven't got a tier to spare, sort of thing. So when I don't have enough room, I could buy a second fridge, I suppose. But what I do is bury them in the ground. To me, it doesn't make a lot of sense to either buy another fridge to store $50 worth of pickles, or maybe $80. I don't know how much this is worth. I guess they are organic, and I don't know what I could sell these at, but anyway, I don't no interest in that. Let's say I got $30 worth of pickles here. It's not worth spending a couple $100 on a high efficiency refrigerator to store $30 worth of pickles. Or conversely, let's say I buy an old fridge for $20. That's inefficient. It's not worth supplying the electricity to that to store, $50 worth of pickles. So I just bury them because it's temporary, right? I need about about 3 months, give or take, of a cooler temperature to bury these things. And I've got other videos. This is my third video doing this, and I've used a different technique each year, and I keep trying to find the ideal technique for this poor man's root cellar idea. I mean, the ideal thing would be to build a root cellar, but this takes about I think before I turned the camera on, I spent about 30 minutes this morning setting this up. That's pretty quick, and it just needs to be temporary. I'm not storing stuff here year round, and I'm not, accessing it, right? I put everything in the hole, I cover it all up, and then the next time I access it is to take everything out. So it doesn't need to have hinges and doors and all that sort of stuff, right? It just needs to do its job. And the first year I did this, I think I put everything in bags, and the second year I did this, I put everything in a cooler, which you can see behind me. And this year, there's too much to put in the cooler. There's not enough room in the cooler. And I got this idea, why don't I just stick them in the hole? And the problem with the cooler is that it didn't have proper ventilation, and so the things would sweat in the jars. The problem with the bags is there wasn't proper ventilation and things sweated. And then I got to thinking, well, soil has ventilation, right? Soil has air. There's air in soil, right? The soil's porous, right? If you pour water on it, the water goes through it, and air goes through it. The trees have roots in the ground. They're getting air underground. So there's air underground. Soil has a natural ability to let in air. Not ridiculous amounts of air. I mean, if you're buried alive, you can't breathe. But you know what I'm trying to say, right? So I thought, why don't I just... what I did was I flattened the hole out really good. I put about an inch of sand on the bottom, just, I don't know, make it clean. I don't know how necessary that is, but it seemed to be. I figured with the sand I could do minute adjustments and make sure all the jars are nice and level, right? So there's like a simple way. Each jar can be individually leveled because the sand just will compensate. Now what I'm going to do is put all the jars in and then cover it up with a bunch of different layers of things, and I'll talk you through all that process as well. But for now, let me just show you a little bit closer what I've got here in terms of the hole. So here's what we're working with here. The hole is about, at the base, maybe 2 feet by 3 feet. If you look down and close, I don't know how well this is coming off on camera, but there's the sand on the bottom, right? And I mean, I've been using this hole for 3 years, so the initial job of digging it was I don't know, might have taken less than an hour, but when you reuse it year after year, it's just super easy to reestablish the hole. Okay, so that's what we're working with. Now I'm going to fill her up. Alright, so there's everything in the hole, and you'll notice that I made a space, so none of the jars are touching one another. There's a space between each jar, so I'm hoping that allows some degree of airflow down there. You'll notice I'm using non-regulation lids and that sort of thing, and I'm not getting it into that topic about how I'm doing this or storage or safety. I'm going to provide some links at the end of this video to some different university extension articles on lacto-fermentation and storage and that sort of thing. Don't do what I'm doing, don't do what I say. Read about it, make a decision for yourself. This is not a lacto-fermentation storage safety video. This is a cold, what do you call it, root cellar experiment video. Okay, so don't come to me if you do something that doesn't work out right. I'm not advising you on how to store these things. This video is about how to make a super quick and easy root cellar. Alright, so that having been said, let's proceed. Alright, so I've got everything in the hole now. Now the goal is to cover this up such that the heat doesn't get in. The sort of, it's a relatively cool environment down there, so I want to maintain that, so do that. But also I don't want rain going into this, so I've graded the soil. The soil that I took out, I've sort of tamped it down, and I've graded it in a bit on a slope, so the water will run that way. Now I'm going to put various layers of plastic and other things over this. And the final layer, I'm going to cover this with something that's not going to let the light in, right? Because you don't want light on your pickles, but also I just don't want the sun heating this hole up, right? So I got a bunch of different things here. This is all just sort of junk that was lying around that I thought would work. So not a lot of, high-tech equipment needed here. What do I got here? I've got... these are actually things a spider on there. These are things I actually use in my gardening implements, and I thought I could put them across here to provide a bit of sort of stability, I suppose. Put that there, and thought I'd put this down, like this, to make a bit of a hump, right? Then I put this over here. It's one of my plastic squares that I use in my garden for, to heat up my cold frames and stuff. Okay. Then I thought I would put some cardboard over, some of this stuff over top to keep the light out. And then a layer of plastic. I think that'll work. That's good, yeah. Notice every layer is getting a little bit larger. Everything's covered and everything else. Okay, layer of plastic. When I found this old tarp I had in the garage, it's full of holes and stuff like that. Doesn't matter. It's got this sort of shiny, fake silver side, which is reflective to an extent. So I thought I'd put that over the whole thing. Right? Now the exercise is just to point the corners down with some rocks, whatever can be, even soil, whatever can be found, so it doesn't blow away. Basically trying to get it so that the wind can't get underneath it, right? That is a bit of a problem here. There we go. I just throw some sticks over the top. There, we're done. Anyway, that's the general idea. When you make lacto-fermented pickles, you have to keep them cool, and a cheap way to keep them cool is to stick them in the ground. But the question is, how do I get them in the ground in a way that's sort of functional and This is what people used to do in the old days. All the time people are saying to me, when I tell them something at work, oh, I did this or I did that. There's, oh, my grandmother used to do that. My grandfather used to do it. My grandparents used to do that. And my initial thought when I always hear that is, yeah, why aren't you still doing it? It worked, right? It seems like everything we do now is like we have to add electricity. Where, if you go back a couple hundred years, really the sun and the soil was driving everything. It just seems to make so much more sense. And yeah, it took a little bit of time, but I just categorize that as exercise. I mean, I take a little walk every day when I'm at work, and I walk by a gym, and there's people literally walking on treadmills, going nowhere, and they're paying money to do it. It doesn't make any sense to me. I don't mind, working up a bit of a sweat doing something like this. The reward is food and exercise. I've not been in a gym since 2004, which is when I bought my first house. And I'm not an Adonis or anything like that, but at the same time, I've never felt since that point in time that I needed to go and find some way to exercise. The exercise seems to always take care of itself if you're perpetually trying to grow your own food. So I'll do a follow-up video in November when I pull these out, and I'll, just like I ever do every year, I'll crack one of these open and eat one and see how it tastes and have a look at the results. So I hope you found that interesting. If you did, please like, share, subscribe. Check out my podcast, maritimegardening.com. And until next time, get out there, get at it, have fun in your garden. Thanks for watching.